It's a reunion. Frank Clark is back with the Seattle Seahawks. And it feels like the Seahawks just listen to Seahawks Twitter. Seahawks Twitter has been asking all day a couple things. Either sign Carlos Dunlap, either sign Frank Clark, or go make a trade for someone like Chase Young or Brian Burns. Well, what I'm hoping happens is, after signing Frank Clark to a one-year deal, bringing him back, maybe the Seahawks still go make a big splash and make a trade for someone like Chase Young. But that's not the topic for this video. The topic for this is the fact that the Seahawks just always, and I mean always, find a way to make sure that they're staying relevant and staying in contention even after a big injury. There are a lot of teams that when they have an injury, they have something happen to a starter like the Seahawks did to Uchenna Nwosu, they don't do much, or they pick up somebody from the practice squad, or they, next guy up mentality. The Seahawks are very good at finding a way, at least to attempt to always make a move that can help them stay in a better position. Now, Frank Clark did not have the best season last year. He's been, I would say slightly on a regressing in his career, but he might end up being the best pass rusher on this team by the end of the year. And I know that might sound crazy, but I just think it's the truth. He went to the AFC West for a couple teams, got a few Pro Bowls, won a couple championships, and he's back with the Seahawks. And we saw another guy, Jarran Reed. Jarran Reed, everyone thought Jarran Reed was done in Green Bay last year. And now he's one of the best players on the Seahawks defense. I think, having Frank Clark back with Bobby Wagner, with Jarran Reed, with a coach in Pete Carroll that he knows, and a city he knows, a team he knows, I actually think there's a chance that he just revitalizes where he was a few years ago. I'm not saying you're going to see 2016, 2018 Frank Clark, but you could see the Frank Clark from 2021 when, I think that was when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, or yeah, it was 2021. You could see that Frank Clark back. The way you've seen Jarran Reed come back. I mean, this guy is a baller. Jarran Reed came back, looks like a baller again in Seattle. And now Frank Clark, a guy who's third all-time in playoff sacks. He doesn't need to be insanely good. I love Uchenna Nwosu, but we're not talking about losing J.J. Watt or Aaron Donald or somebody like that on your defense. Nwosu is great, but he's not the most irreplaceable person on a team. He's not the quarterback. He's not, like I said, the best pass rusher in football. I wish him nothing but the quickest recovery because he's been a stud. But what I'm saying is the Seahawks find a way to find guys that are at least at a decent replacement level for the player they lost. And that's what they did with Frank Clark. They are trying to find ways to find a decent replacement. Now, the Seahawks are just good at this, right? They never let a season, especially with the Pete Carroll, John Schneider era, they never let a season just decline or go to waste. I've mentioned this before, but they always go get Percy Harvin and Jamal Adams, and they always go get pieces when they feel like they need to go get a piece before a playoff run. And then they always bring back guys that were successful in the past. We've seen them bring back Bruce Irvin in the recent past. We've seen them bring back Marshawn Lynch. We've seen them bring back Bobby Wagner this year, brought back Jarran Reed this year. Now they're bringing back Frank Clark. This team loves being able to bring back players that they know can fit in culturally, that they can coach, that will listen, and that they know what kind of potential they have. That's why I thought it was very, very clear the Seahawks were going to bring in Carlos Dunlap or Frank Clark. They chose Frank Clark. We'll see what they do next. I think if they do not get a trade for somebody like a Chase Young, which has been a rumor since the beginning of the offseason, so don't say that's crazy, because Washington said they're open to trading Montez Sweat and Chase Young. I think I saw a tweet yesterday that there's a possibility those guys could be on the move. I'm not saying they are for sure, but there could be a possibility they're on the move. They are guys that are, the Seahawks could make a risk for, like they did with Jamal Adams in the past or Percy Harvin in the past, in a big season where they feel like they're contending. That could be worth it. But if they don't, I say bring back Carlos Dunlap too. These one-year contracts, they can't be any crazy numbers. These guys are guys that are released free agents they'll take a 1 year, whatever, $2-3 million and play for the Seahawks, a team that they're familiar with, a city they're familiar with, players they're familiar with. I say bring back Carlos Dunlap too and see what can happen on this defense. So overall, I think it's very exciting what the Seahawks are doing. Now, they are not, once again, not a perfect position. Don't get me wrong. But they are a team right now, I think, that are, according to PFF grades, I think they were 8th or 9th in pass rush. So losing Nwosu is a bad piece when you're, bad thing to lose when you're a top 10 pass rush team. But this is how you stay contending. They're going to bring in Frank Clark. If he's good, we'll be set. If he's not, they'll probably make another move. And if this team can stay good and keep getting better weekly and weekly and weekly and weekly on defense, all we need is our offense to wake up just a bit. It's been a little bad, but just wake up a little bit. Now, we might not see it this week. Geno Smith and our bad offensive line, and our bad pass blocking offensive line, they're ranked, I think on PFF grades, they're ranked 23rd or 22nd in pass blocking. And the pass rush for the Browns are rated number 1 or graded number 1. So it's going to be a rough week potentially for the offensive line and Geno Smith. But as long as the defense continues to do what they do, like they did last week, and hold it down, do not let the other team score many points, like a backup quarterback, P.J. Walker for the Browns, then the Seahawks can be looking at a 5-2 situation, and we'll be all right. And all we have to do is continue to make that offense a little better and make sure Frank Clark fits in the defense and keep making that defensive rush really good. And whether that's just Frank Clark or another move, like I said, they got to do something and make sure that they keep it up. I love this for cultural reasons. I love this for all different reasons for the Seahawks defense. And on top of it, there could be that veteran presence that really helps. Let's not forget Tariq Woolen is young. You have Derek Hall that's young. You have, Devin Witherspoon that's young on this defense. There's a lot of young pieces and a lot of veterans. There's a good mix. But it's good to have more veterans. Keep this team intact. Keep this team with a good veteran presence. And keep pushing them to higher levels. I think we have a serious chance. I really do. I think this is a really big piece for us. Even if he's not great, it's a huge pickup. He just has to be all right to be very helpful for this defense. And the Seahawks will have a chance at making this defense something special again. We're going to miss Nwosu, but I'm so glad we brought back Frank Clark. But do not forget, I really hope they do try to bring back Carlos Dunlap or make a trade for Chase Young. Because this defense, if you do make a trade for Chase Young, let's break that down for 1 second. Chase Young's a generational type of talent. If you make a trade for Chase Young, we're talking about this defense going from being a top 8 in pass rush or in a top 10 defense in general to a top 5, top 4 pass rush in football and the top 5 or 6 defense in all football. So that means if the offense was just okay, a little bit better than they are right now, we'd be talking about a situation where the Seahawks are looking at overall being a top 4 or 5 team. Right now, I think based on all PFF grades, most power rankings, I think PFF Seahawks are at 8th. Power rankings, everyone has them at 8, 9, 10, 11. Somebody like Chase Young takes your defense a little step up and the offense takes a little step up. All of a sudden, everywhere you're a top 4 or 5 team and you're competing with the 49ers. And that's an important piece here. The 49ers, Brock Purdy. Everyone thought that Brock Purdy was like, MVP. I'm not saying Seahawks fans did, but a lot of people had him. MVP possibility. Brock Purdy's this good. Never lost the regular season game. 49ers are unstoppable. 2 games in a row, the 49ers do not look unstoppable. And Brock Purdy does not look as good as he once did. He's looking a little more like a Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers. Not Brock Purdy. So there's a good chance for the Seahawks team. They're 4-2. While the 49ers are 5-2. If the Seahawks win this week, we're talking about same loss column. You get a couple wins here. You face 49ers twice in 4 weeks. Thanksgiving and then 3 weeks after that. There's a chance to be competing for this division. I'm not saying we're quite there yet because the 49ers have looked better than us overall. But you win 1 or 2 more games in a row here, all of a sudden you're creeping up to that game in Thanksgiving against the 49ers where you are fighting for the top of the division. And if you told a lot of people that before the season, you'd think that's nuts, especially if I showed you the way Geno Smith was playing right now, which has not been up to the standard of last year or up to his standards. You wouldn't think we're here, but we are. So we can't lose any more bad games, though. Can't lose to the Rams like we did. The Bengals, I don't consider that a bad loss, but Browns at home, you can't lose. No excuse. Next week, the Ravens on the road, you have a little more of an excuse. That's like the Bengals game. That's the one that I look at the schedule and I say that could be a loss. But this week, Browns at home against backup P.J. Walker, no excuse. Go win and keep bolstering this defense. Thank you, John. Thank you, Pete. We appreciate it. Peace.